Foreplay presented by Barstool Sports, and we are edited as always by our very good friend Jake Bass, and he also does all the promos. So all the promos that you do, that's Jake Bass. All of our four-man scrambles, a lot of the more deeper edited videos that you see, that's our guy Brendan Jones. So we have obviously a very good team. It's been a great year considering everything that's gone on and how obviously terrible it's been, how unpredictable it's been. We've luckily been able to power through, try to crank out as much stuff as we can. So big thanks to those guys. This podcast, you can't tell already, is going to be a little bit of a year in review type thing. I pulled some very interesting tidbits from throughout the entire year. But we have a whole squad here. We got Lurch, Frankie, Trent, myself. Boys, this is the last show of the year, 2020. Going to be one that we talk about for a very long time. How are we?
I'm in a great mood. So I'm still in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and I'm currently sitting in the midst of a blizzard. And it's just beautiful out. So I'm in high spirits right now because I came back home and I wanted a snowy Christmas. I did not get that, but the last couple of days have been pretty snowy. And right now it's snowing like the Dickens, as they say. So it's very snowy and I'm very happy.
Nice to hear. I'm in sunshiny Florida, so wildly different in temperature. It's about 80 degrees here, and feeling good. Got my negative COVID test back, and there's nothing wrong with me up here. I might have a little sniffle, a little cough, but I'm okay.
Very nice. Good to hear. Absolutely.
You still have a sniffle and a cough still?
Yeah, still a little bit. It's like I'll wake
up.
The
common cold, maybe? Influenza?
That's exactly what I think. And I'm glad that it's only the common cold, because when you get the rapid test, when I got that back and it was negative, you're kind of like, all right, I dodged a bullet there, but that's like 50-50 if that's right or wrong. But then when I got the PCR test back, then I felt like, all right, I don't have this thing and I just have the cold and we're good to like be around people again. But I'll tell you what, if you cough in public or if I'm running and I cough, you still get horrible looks from people, which is expected.
Yeah, there was a couple of mix-ups for me where I was calling a PPR because I was in the midst of a dog fight in fantasy football. It was just in my head. PPR, needed wide receiver, Stephon Diggs, needed him to get some catches. But, feeling good at home. Feel like I'm like quarantining right now because like we've been off for the week and I've just been kind of just in my room. Trent and I streamed for about 7 hours yesterday. I built a little more Butters Bay. So I'm not taking many steps. But I did order a Peloton. I didn't talk about this on the last show.
Dude, I'm going to do that.
I've ordered the Peloton. I got it for my mom for Christmas. But really it's for everyone to use. So I told anyone in the house that's going to be coming over. We have like an extra room now. My sister moved out, the whole thing. So like when we're back home with my parents, we have a gym in there now. And I'm like, you just have to buy the little cleats, because I didn't know you had to get cleats or shoes. Those things are fucking expensive, let me tell you. But yeah, it's I didn't get shoes for everyone. I'm like, you all have to get your own shoes. I got the bike. That's all. That is what it is. But I'm very excited to get on that thing because I need some motivation to get up and move. I joined my hockey league, and now I'm on a bike.
You're going to build up a little leg strength. I mean, the bike is all about leg strength. I think that could actually help your physique in a wild amount of ways.
I got the saturation going on my camera today too. I'm feeling good. I got my little water bubbler back here.
I was gonna say the Peloton's very important. Get in shape. 2021, you're gonna be the best version of you. But that water bubbler back there, that's the headline, folks.
Yeah, it really is. It's a full-on office water cooler right next to my fucking little desk setup at home. I'm talking. I don't know how many. I mean, this is just gallons of water.
Now tell me why that's not in the kitchen.
We've got one in the kitchen. I wanted one next to my desk because I wanted to save that walking down
20 steps.
It's just one of those things where it's like you wake up in the middle of the night, and when I get a house and stuff, like I can always take it with me. This is something that you can own for a long time. It's got a little refrigerator on the bottom. You can keep drinks in there. I just figure when I'm here, when I'm streaming, when I'm sitting here for 7 hours, I don't want to get off the screen. I wanted something I could just hit and just fucking it bubbles. Let me. Can you guys hear the bubbling? Hold on, ready?
Oh yeah.
Now, would you describe those as bubbles, or would you describe that as you're just pouring water?
Well, the bubbles up top goes boom, boom.
Oh yeah, the big bubble. I know that big bubble.
So
we've done a lot of streaming over the past couple of months, and not once did I see Frankie drink a single glass of water. We streamed yesterday for a few hours, and he drank 15 glasses of water.
Maybe 15 glasses of water. So I mean,
it's good for you.
It's good. It's motivation, and I don't know if the whole bike, the water is that new year, new me type bullshit, which I don't like doing. You know, everyone joins a gym on January because it's a new year. It's like, well, you're the same piece of shit you were in December. There's no difference. It's just Monday went into Tuesday and nothing changed. But I think a little subconscious thing is happening where that happened to me. And I was like, you know, next year, it's been a bad 2020, 2021. Let's get fit. I got a couple weddings coming up. Like, on the pictures, if I get caught, I'm finding myself when I get caught on the side angles, they're bad angles right now. I got the chin. I'm looking around. I got the little side gut where it looks like I don't know. I don't want to talk about it, but we're gonna get fit.
About.
We're gonna get fit.
Dude, I remember one time I was living in Boston. I forget like the details, but basically I signed up for a gym, did the Better Me thing, start of a new year, and whatever, you pay your like $150 initiation, then you pay your monthly gamut. After like 2 months, I was like, dude, I haven't been to this gym yet and I'm not going back. So I went in there to cancel it. They lock you in for a year though. So they were like, you have to pay $250 to get out of this thing. Oh. So I was like, I don't care. Just charge me the $250. I'm not coming back. I don't want to ever come back here. Just whatever. So I ended up spending like $500 for this gym and never once actually went in for a workout.
Dude, the gym that I signed up for and I went 4 times in New York City. I signed up for this fucking gym in New York City. They're making me, I want to cancel, right? I'm like, I want to cancel this membership. I refuse to come anymore. And they're like, well, you have to handwrite a letter and send it to our headquarters. I'm like, well, I'm just never going to do that. So just keep charging me. Keep it on. Keep my tab running.
I still have a Planet Fitness membership that I will be paying until the day I die.
Because of that?
Physically walk into the gym to do it, to cancel it. And it's like $7 a month. And it's not enough to motivate me to go to the gym. Like, you almost have to, your monthly fee has to be high enough where I feel like I have skin in the game where I'm going to go. But if Planet Fitness is $8, like, I'm just not going to go. That's not enough for me to go. And it's not enough for me to go cancel. So I'm just going to be paying that until I'm dead in the ground.
It's like with golf clubs. I mean, we have a little golf show here, so we can turn to that. But like, you know, for Christmas and New Year, a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to get a new set of clubs. I'm going to play more golf this year. A lot of the dads, the older guys, like, I know my dad's like, I'm going to get a new set. I need a new driver. I'm going to play a lot of golf this year. It's like that mindset. Like, I'm going to get out, I'm going to walk. And that initiation or that thing that catapults that desire is usually like a new gym membership, a new set of clubs, maybe a new outfit, like for golf. You always need that new thing. You can't take the old you and move yourself into that new you without like buying something shiny. For me, it ended up being a bike. But for other people, it could be really anything, I guess.
Riggs sold me on it, actually, or the last gym that I joined. Riggs was like, oh, no, it's an investment in you. It's an investment in your health. I think this was like 2 years ago.
Straight out of the pamphlet.
Yeah, I know. It was like somebody got to him, infiltrated his mind, like threw a USB chip in there, and then he just regurgitated
an investment in you.
Here's what happens.
Right. So then we go, you pay $200 a month for this gym. And I think Riggs went to it once. I think you went once. I started to actually go, but it took me about 6 months to get into it. So I'm in for $1,200 before I actually took my first step in there. But I actually started to go maybe, I don't know, once or twice.
We talking about the real expensive one in New York City?
Here's what happened.
Okay.
Let me tell you what happened. Let me just tell you what happened. Like, so we're talking about Equinox, and
it's like a cult.
This isn't a free ad because we just never went there. So essentially, what happened was Caleb Presley, our good friend Caleb Presley, who we had on the show midway through last year when he started to get into golf, 51 strokes. He's very fucking funny. Sunday conversation. But Caleb had the conversation where he convinced me like he was a fucking rep. Maybe he was trying to get his referral referral fee, but he did the whole thing where he's like, you know, if you really think about it, man, like your health and your fitness, you can't put a price on it. And if you join a place like Equinox, you're going to be really into going. And it's actually such a sweet place that it's going to make you on a daily basis be excited to go into the gym. And they've got this pool and it's on top of it's an outdoor like fucking roof pool. And I was like, you know what, dude, that makes so much sense. Here's $250 a month for the next year and a half. And I went one time. And that one time that we went, it was a great experience, but I had to get up at fucking 7 a.m. and like Lurch and I went in there and then we got like a shake afterwards that cost like $25 and we left. And I said like, well, I didn't get my breakfast sandwich that I usually get. I'm up fucking 2 hours earlier than I need to be up. I really don't feel any better. I'm just tired now. My whole body's going to be sore for a month. And I never went back the whole time. And I will say the one positive that I can say about Equinox is I went to cancel those motherfuckers a couple months ago. And all I had to do was send them an email, and they responded within like a couple days, and they just said like, no problem, your subscription is canceled.
That's because they have real humans working over there. Whatever they got working over there at Blink Fitness. I don't want to tear them down to the ground, but Blink, dude, I waited on the phone for 45 minutes to finally get to someone, and they basically did like the and then just hung up. Like, I can't hear you, bad connection. Got a hand write with quill ink, whatever, a quill pen.
Yeah, most places are like, go to the top of a mountain and do a bunch of start a fire and smoke signal your cancellation to this gym. Otherwise, you are not getting out of this deal. And that's just the way that it is.
Whatever.
A couple things I want to go through here. First, I want to talk about Owens Mixers. So now that we're coming to the end of the year, one of the things that I have on my list, because there's a lot of things that we created or that we launched or that sort of came and were created out of nothing this year for the first time. One of those things is the transfusion. We were actually able to launch our own drink, which we filmed a commercial with a donkey, and like Trent became tight with the donkey.
I almost killed the donkey.
I was watching that video the other day. That was a weird day, huh?
I almost fucking smoked that donkey and its handler. I really did. So when we were doing that commercial, they're like, all right, guys, like mishit a couple, because the storyboard is gonna be, you're gonna mishit a couple, you're gonna drink the Owens, and then the Owens is gonna make you like a better golfer. And we're like, well, okay, like nothing's gonna make me a better golfer, but we like the drink, so we'll do it. And I'm like, oh, let me mishit one, which in reality, you can just give me 10 shots and like a couple of them are gonna be a mishit. But I really tried to mishit one, and I topped it to just straight right. And I'm telling you, I think there's video of it somewhere on Twitter, but I sizzled this thing right at this donkey because it was to the right, like just off camera. It wasn't a part of that shot. And boy, I mean, the handler was like, you almost just murdered me. Almost like a golf ball 120 miles an hour to the neck.
Yeah, she was like, I thought this was like a commercial and you guys were like acting. Like,
yeah.
I didn't know you were going to actually try to hurt me.
Yeah, shout out to Elle with the donkey. And one of the funnier things that I'm going to struggle to explain to people who weren't there is the old man with the camera. Oh, yeah. I know we've talked about it before, but that guy buzzing out, that 150-year-old man who saw something on the golf course that his house backs up to, and he grabbed his camera and power walked out to us. And then it was really one of the funniest things that's ever happened. He was just so excited that something was going on.
He's never seen so much activity going on behind his retirement home and on Pinehurst #1. And he needed to know what was happening. He got the camera that he probably sends pictures to the rest of the community with, whether he sees, a big squirrel or sometimes, I don't know, maybe a deer walks by. He likes to alert the community of his findings. And he saw a commercial going on his hole, and he put on his good white shoes that day, and he came fucking sprinting out to that tee shot.
Too, like at some point when you're old and you've moved into like a retirement community, your whole job in life is to just get in the mix. Like that's pretty much what you exist to do. And like Dave's dad is a great example of that. Cousin Mike and Cousin Murray, like they just exist to be like involved in stuff. Hopefully that's what they're looking to do. And that guy saw a legit donkey in a commercial being shot in his backyard. It was just like, I gotta be in the mix here. And he came out lightning fast.
Cousin Mike, Dave's dad, now is like, he's like got a high with news, right? News reporting. Yep. He loves to get in on the news now. He sees a news briefing going on the street, and he loves to just walk by and see what's going on. So that's pretty much the example of what we're saying about this guy. He needed to get in on the mix.
Speaking of getting in on the mix, Owens Mixers, which is the company that is our sponsor, our presenting sponsor, they're heroes. We love them. We love the people that work there, that started the company, that worked with us to create the transfusion. So do yourself a favor and understand that you can get these mixers on Amazon. You can get them at Publix now. That's a huge, obviously, development. So you can just walk right in and grab those puppies. Owensmixers.com. They got a store finder, so you can find the transfusion. You can find where they've got drinks. So big thanks to Owens. The mint cucumber and lime is probably my favorite outside of the transfusion. The grapefruit and lime is making a serious charge for #1 contender. So all their mixers are very good. A big thanks to Owens Mixers. Okay.
Real quick before we get into the history of the year, I have a Snapple on my desk here, and it'd be a huge travesty for me not to read the fact.
Yeah, let's hear it.
A human being could comfortably fit and swim through the blood vessels of a blue whale.
Ooh.
I'll tell you this: the blue whale at that American History Museum, uptown on the west side, they got a blue whale in there, and it's fucking shocking when you see the thing.
I can't imagine how big it is. I'm trying to think. Like you see shots of them when they come up, and they fucking or they'll usually be like the cameraman will be like below it, and it'll go across the top of them, and it'll cover the sun, and the whole ocean becomes dark. But I don't even know what that means. Like to me, what do I look like on that? I mean, if I could swim through its blood vessels,
Right. And comfortably, the comfortably word, like I can go freestyle.
I guess so. Yeah, that thing's huge.
Look at that room that thing, like it is.
Right, it's in a grand room and it takes up the whole thing.
It takes up the entire thing. It's amazing. So the blue whale, but the fact you can swim through its blood, what? Really?
Right,
Blood
'cause, like,
vessels.
what could go through my blood vessel? An ant? Like what could swim comfortably through one of my blood vessels?
Your blood,
Bowling
like the
ball.
ones like, dude, yeah, yours, right? I mean, for you, it's like regatta cheese and fucking macaroni.
Here comes a brutal joke.
Not that much different from the blue whale example, I don't think.
I mean, I'm
coming
looking
from
at like
you,
my
T-Daddy.
wrists right now. Like maybe an
Dude, I thought
ant.
I was gonna get some backup from T Daddy, and he just lobs on another punch.
Dude, we're talking about New Year, New Me. I'm just huge right now after this holiday. I have eaten so much garbage. It's been
An ant can go through your. Yeah, I think an ant's probably correct.
Look how big that fucking blue whale is, dude. Look at that room and that guy on there.
See, that makes me think that dude. That makes me think that the blue whale has crazy big blood vessels, though.
Right, because like
That guy's like pretty big,
right,
like next to that blue whale. I mean, the blue whale's huge, but still, like you would think his blood vessels would be minute compared to that man.
right, you think maybe like a little small dog could swim through those blood
Right,
vessels,
which would
not
be still a
human being.
crazy fact. Like, oh, a
Crazy
dog.
fact.
Yeah.
I
Blue
mean,
whales are huge. You guys can actually, are museums even open right now? I don't think so, right?
I doubt it.
Yeah. Sad times. Anyways,
Sorry.
no, that's
big
okay.
fish.
Big fish. Okay. So here's what I want to do. I want to go through a little bit of this year. It's been obviously the pandemic, the PGA Tour stopping and then restarting, and everything else that went into it. I was going to just start by listing a few of the things that sort of were created this year within foreplay. First is the four-man scramble. Like the four-man scramble just didn't exist. It started really on this show. It was like it was going to be a match, and then we kind of combined it with like this long-standing debate of like, could average golfers just compete on the PGA Tour? Could they beat a PGA Tour player playing as a four-man scramble? And we came up with the idea like, why don't we just try that against Kevin Kisner at Pinehurst #2? We ended up doing it. There was so much hype going up to it. I was actually looking, and like we had Kiz on like the week or two before the show, and he just roasted us the whole time, being like, no, I've played golf with you guys. Like, you guys suck. I'm really good. I'm just going to beat you. And then we ended up defeating him. And when we defeated him, I was really kind of thinking like, if we didn't beat Kevin Kisner, in theory, the four-man scramble could have just died right there. Like, I don't know that you have a series. Like, if we just lose, it's like, it's just over. And instead we won. And that sort of created this thing where now we are moving our way up the ladder and we can just beat people that are the best golfers in the world.
Yeah, I agree. I think it needed to be, you needed to come up with a bang. I mean, we also thought that if we were to lose, it would be a constant, like, when are we going to win video? Like, when's that first time you're going to win? But it would definitely, I don't know. I almost think that we've been too good because now we're proving that like really like a decent four-man scramble can beat the best players in the world, as opposed like we almost need to get like beat by one of these guys at some point, because like you have guys like Dave now being like, well, you guys have already proved that like it's like you're just going to win the next one. It's like, well, we're also playing outrageous. You have to sit there and watch the video and see how crazy like Lurch has to hit the ball 2 feet or else we lose the match to Pat Perez. So yeah, it's fun. If Jake could go back and actually, he's probably going to murder me, but if he could go and put that audio in, and how much we didn't really want to do that. It was at the height of the pandemic, I feel like, and we're like, I don't feel like flying, but we know that the four-man scramble is the correct way to go about this. And we're like, oh, is it going to work? I actually want to listen back to like how we talked that through, because it is by far one of our best ideas that we've had as a group, because like we have pros now wanting to play us in golf, which we never would have had unless we were all collectively one player ever in a million years. No one wants to
sure.
play and just beat us by 13 strokes. It's boring.
Right, and I think the key to the Kisner match, win or loss, was that we couldn't have lost by too much and we couldn't have won by too much. Like the magic of the 4-man scramble is that it's close every single time for the most part. Kisner's was about as close as you can get, but if we had won like on the 11th hole or if he had won on the 11th hole, then the idea dies because you get your answer right there. But the fact that it was so close and the Joel Damon one it got close. You're going to see that video coming out soon. And then the Pat Perez one was so close. Like that's what makes it great. I get that we beat all of these guys. We're 3-0, but it's closer than the record appears for sure.
Also, my favorite thing is I think the reason that they're great is because fundamentally it feels flawed. Like when Pat Perez or Joel Damon or Kiz leave the golf course, they are so confused at how they could possibly have just lost based on what they've seen. So like that is my favorite thing as well. Somehow in this group, confidence is built when you're the last man on the stage, which isn't always the case for a lot of 4-man scrambles. You think like I'm the last guy up, like I got no chance. The last guy up has continually like performed way outside of expectations.
We have like a sneaky clutch gene that we didn't know that we have.
Right. I think there's a lot to that. Where the 4-man scrambles turned into the 1-man show or the 1-man or the 1-hit wonders or whatever it is. That we should just rename it.
If they go into the match being like, there's no chance I win, because these guys have 4 shots, and like when they see us on the range, like, oh, they can actually hit the golf ball like somewhat. If you can advance the ball, you could probably beat me. And then they watch how the match goes. They're playing pretty well. They see us hitting the ball all over the place, and they're like, all right, I should be able to win now. And then they get the confidence where it's like, I'm gonna fucking dominate these guys, and then we just somehow win. And then, yeah, it's a roller coaster for the pro more than it is for us. Like we know our game. For them, they're like going in thinking they're losing. Halfway through, they're gonna win. At the end, they're walking in their cars being like, what the fuck just happened? So
right.
It's more fun for the pro to play in it than us because they're in a wild case of emotions.
Well, Kisner on the range, that was, I feel like the longest range session we had. Also, Kisner's team was there as well, like looking at us hit the ball. And I remember going back to them. I was like, do you think we have a chance today? And they're like, dude, you guys all are horrible. Like we were shanking the ball. One guy rips it left. Then it's like a low missile right. Then Kiz is like, oh, Riggs, like bend your knees in. That's really going to work. Or like, oh, you just pick up the club and then try to hit it through. And you're like, yeah, I mean, we don't really have like a full idea of what's going on. But I think like the confusion of them seeing us to then Frankie hits just an absolute bomb down the middle to somehow we just keep having one ball in play and then walking off the golf course is like my favorite thing. Like Perez was fundamentally shocked that he lost the match. And then he was like, I don't believe that happened. Like he was pissed.
Yeah,
it is and you know, we've talked a lot about the 4-man scrambles, but I think we've gotten, you know, lucky in a way that like we are actually right around that skill level as a 4-man scramble, that like we don't blow them out, we don't get blown out, it just turns into a good match, and that's great content. Okay, going through this, I wanted to start, I looked at all of the kind of show titles throughout the entire year. I mean, we do 2 podcasts a week, 52 weeks in a year, so we do over 100 shows a year. And the very first, so what happens is, you know, we do our podcast and then we whip up one of these little, a title and a description for the Spotify or for the podcast app or whatever. And I want to read the very first description on January 1st from our first show. It says, new year, new decade, new predictions. What kind of year will Tiger have? Will that psycho John Rahm win a major? Is Phil done or is he ready for a resurgence? Who will win the Masters, PGA, US Open, and British Open? All that, plus Frankie details as only he could his Atlantis trip and the things that happened only to Frankie. And looking at that and like even asking about like Phil went and won 2 like Champions Tour events. And like and then you know who's gonna win the British Open didn't even happen. And thinking about that like a year ago, that how different and the things that you're actually focused on and what are going to occur versus what actually occurred is again just stunning.
I can't. Yeah, thinking back to that is a shocker. Yeah, the Atlantis thing. But the one thing that I remember is when I first came into the office, or like early in the year, I was scared about COVID and like I touched a handrail in the subway that day. That must have been like a month and a half into the year. That seems like 2 years ago that happened.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was probably like late February. I want you guys to guess who our first guest was last year.
Oh, well, wait. Was that the Justin Thomas podcast? Or no, was that 2 years
the year prior? That was 2 years ago.
Jesus Christ. Good guess, Trent.
You're never going to get it, I don't think.
Michael Breed.
No, but I do love Michael Breed. He's a great guy.
Me too.
Our very first guest was Jeff Shackelford.
Oh, shit.
No way.
Yeah.
No
That
way.
was-
That makes sense. Coming back from the trip, we got him on.
That's right. We got him
Oh
on,
my
and
God.
we came back. We literally did we did our January first show, and then our next show was 5 or 6 days into January, and we had Jeff Shackelford on the show.
I gave him a little lesson on how to fucking come into the 21st century. Boy, I think that was probably one of my best shows I've ever had, because I don't know why my brain synapses were firing. And when I get angry, when I'm backed into a wall, I feel like I can sometimes either burn up into a million pieces or fire off some sort of weaponry and catch a couple little pieces of flesh there. And I think I did with Jeff Shackelford. I want to listen back to that show personally. And I mean, he was a scared little man when we were fucking screaming at him. We were giving it to him. We were really giving it to Shackelford.
90% of that show, it was pretty cordial, and we met in the middle on a lot of things. And then Frankie just got hot under the collar for whatever reason, and started telling him how Twitter works, how Instagram works, why Barstool is dominating the media landscape. Yeah, that was. I
want to get back into that shit. Let's fucking call that guy up. I want to start screaming at. We should be like, it's been a year since we fucking bullied you around the ring.
So I feel like when we left that podcast, Trent looked at me and goes, "Man, it feels good to be on the right side of the equation." He just was like, sometimes I'm going to be on the wrong or right side of the coin, but this time it just feels good to be on the right side of this coin.
Were we in a studio for that?
Yeah.
Yes, we were in studio. I think he FaceTimed in or Zoomed in at the time. But it's funny to think too, since that moment, it's a year later. Jeff Shackelford is nowhere. He's not on television ever. I don't see him on any legitimate golf online streaming program. I don't he's nowhere. He's just nowhere. I don't think he has any jobs anymore. I don't know what he does. He's just nowhere. I haven't seen Jeff Shackelford in God knows how long. So I think he was just murdered on our show. But that was January 6th of 2020. And then, of course, as only Frankie could, he had this awesome show. And then I looked January 15th. It says, Frankie forced to apologize to an anonymous Tiger Woods fan account.
What the fuck? I did something where I called him out and he was right? What happened? It was Tiger Woods Legion or something like that.
Yeah, you called him out about something, and he was just you said that he had no credibility or something, and and he was just right about it, and you had to formally apologize to an anonymous Tiger Woods fan.
I did.
The roller coaster that is Frankie Borelli. I love it.
And then I started to say that we were actually the ones who ran the account. That it wasn't them, it was us, and we're starting a war with ourselves. What was it about?
Was it TW Spot or was it
It was Tiger Woods Legion,
Spot,
I thought.
but it's Tiger Woods Legion on Twitter. TW Spot on it. It's the same person.
Yeah. And Trent was saying, "Show yourself," and then he was like, "No, we're just that person. There's no proof that we're not that person unless you actually show your face."
Then January 27th was our first show after Kobe died, and Tiger played the final round at Farmers while the whole thing was going down. And if you remember, afterwards, Joey told Tiger because he didn't want him to get bombarded in the interview. And I just was when I was scrolling through, I was like, oh my God, that was 11 months ago. It's just bizarre to think about.
Yeah, I remember they walked off the 18th green. They're walking towards the scoring tent, and I think you could sort of hear Joey say something to him, and Tiger stops and was like, "What did you just say to me?" And then they because you're right, he didn't want to learn in the interview, and then Tiger gave a nice, post-round interview about it. But that was, that feels like 100 years ago.
And remember people were yelling, obviously all kinds of different Kobe related things to Tiger, and he just didn't. He was kind of thinking he said afterwards, he was thinking okay, there's something going on here, but he didn't know. And the fact that all happened on a Sunday during the Farmers Insurance, and then what was going to come the rest of the year, it was just looking back when I saw that headline, I was like, oh my God, that was last year's show. And it feels 10 years ago in a way. And it also feels like yesterday that it happened. So it's almost I kind of feel that whole way about 2020, where it feels like it went by super slow, and then also it feels like it didn't even happen. It went by really fast half the time. So I don't really know. It's weird. The whole thing. Then February 3rd was the famous what'd you shoot on that hole versus what'd you make on that hole debate.
Oh,
and
shit.
made it into an entire, like, the full description and title of the podcast was all about that. So I think we were pretty much at each other's throats at that point. February 12th was the first time we ever had Alfonso Ribeiro on the show.
Legend.
Wow. Yeah.
What a brain. What a brain. What an absolute brain. He just brings the fucking energy.
God, that
I
was
see him
February
on the,
12th, Riggs.
Yeah.
So that was right before everything broke. I remember him sitting in the office with us. It was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
See the burn. I mean, that is nuts. God, there's so much I forget. I mean, when we're going through this, would anyone in this room be able to, like, regurgitate the last year? Just, it's a no for me.
No
He
chance.
was wearing a nice suit, wasn't he?
He was
Really
looking
nice.
beautiful.
He looked great. Looked like a total stud.
I remember, and not to jump ahead too far, but I remember one of the first shows we did post COVID happening and they shut down New York City. I remember asking the question, when's the next time we're all going to be in the studio together? And that has yet to happen. I'm pretty sure.
Hasn't happened. Even when we've been together, have we done a podcast not via Zoom?
We might have done one when we first got to Pinehurst for the 4-man scramble. I remember being in a hotel room with you guys.
Yeah,
That's
I think
right.
you're right. We did like real quick, we got to talk about our good friends at Hellofresh. With Hellofresh, you get fresh, pre-measured ingredients and mouth-watering seasonal recipes delivered right to your door. Now, look, I don't know how to cook. I don't know what to buy. It takes me forever to go through the grocery store. I'm a train wreck. I forget half the stuff I'm supposed to get. I get the wrong stuff and don't get what I'm supposed to get. When you use HelloFresh, they cut out stressful meal planning and grocery store trips so you can enjoy cooking and get dinner on the table in about 30 minutes or less. They offer 23 plus recipes each week, featuring a range of flavors, cuisines, and ingredients, so you will never get bored. HelloFresh's Easy Eats offering has tons of quick and easy meal solutions like oven-ready and 10 to 20-minute meals, perfect for your busy schedule. Here's what you folks can do. We're going to help you out. You go to HelloFresh.com/4play10. Use the code 4play10 for 10 free meals, including free shipping. That's an amazing deal. So you're kind of crazy if you don't take that deal right now. Go to HelloFresh.com/4play10. Use the code 4play10 for 10 free meals, including free shipping. Okay, March 4th. The title of our podcast was, I think somebody just got hurt over there. The title of our podcast
That was a human scream?
Had to be a kid.
I think it was a little child or maybe a chair.
Jesus.
I think they went around the corner. I can't really tell. March 4th, 2020, the title of our podcast was, What If Coronavirus Cancels the Masters?
And I remember us like saying there's no chance. Like the Masters will go on. The Kentucky Derby goes on. Like we were even looking up stats, like even during World Wars, like most of those old school fucking events always go through. Like the Kentucky Derby never missed a year, even during World War II and shit like that. And now looking back, like, I mean, coronavirus won a lot of stuff. Like coronavirus beat down the sports industry, the restaurant industry, the fucking every industry in the fucking world, except for Walmart and Target. We're not gonna get to that, but it's just absolutely crazy. I mean, it's just crazy town looking back. Like once we start getting into this March now, like now these like this whole everything from here on out is just fantasy land from what you're about to say. Like I don't even know what we talked about from March until today, but like this world has been a movie scene.
I think it was the Big Ten tournament, college basketball, where they stopped the games at halftime. They came out for the first half. What was it? It was one of the college basketball tournaments where they stopped the games at halftime and they didn't come back out. And then March Madness fell. And then it started to feel like the Masters was maybe going to get canceled. But before those things happened, there was no chance in hell that they were going to even think about touching the Masters. And then, like Frankie's saying with the episodes, it was the same way with the world and the sports world, where as soon as we shoved off into late March, anything was possible.
And then the players, like they just stopped the tournament at the players. Like they said no people,
That's
and then
right.
they just canceled it. And it was
So
like,
yeah, the Players Championship, if you recall, the Players Championship in the same week that on, like, let's say Tuesday, March Madness fell, then like Wednesday, the NHL season fell. Thursday, the Players Championship hosted its first round with fans.
Yep.
And the night before, they had like concerts and shit outside.
Yeah.
Thursday, they literally held the first round of the Players Championship. And we actually that Tuesday put out a show with our buddy Steve Elkington walking around the Players Championship practice area with like Brooks Koepka chipping, gearing up for the Players Championship. And he like walked around and did an interview with us from inside the ropes at the Players Championship. That was March 11th.
That's nice. So that was just on the press. And then what, like March 12th? And then by March 18th, the world was shut down.
So March 13th, the Masters and the Players were canceled, and we put out an emergency podcast reacting to the entire thing.
Oh my God.
And when people like we had, so that was on March 4th, we had a podcast where we essentially mocked the idea of the Masters getting canceled. And we basically mocked coronavirus as like, no, you can go up against, you know, humanity and our frail bodies, but you cannot go up against the Masters tournament. Like, good luck with that. And then a week later, Masters canceled. Players Championship, they played one round, canceled it, and then they didn't play again for what, 3 months?
Yeah.
Dude, I remember being in my apartment and like, well, whenever that first basketball game, like that we were just talking about, got canceled and the players were walking off the court. I remember there was rumblings at the office, like, oh, the office is going to be closed next week. New York City's going to be shut down. I remember walking to my buddies being like, this is kind of weird, but like, you know, when you're in the midst of like something crazy in the world, you're like, this is kind of interesting. Like, it's like a big snowstorm. You're like, you don't like it, but you're like, this is a change up that like I'm like going to keep my eye on this because like every day I take the subway, I go to work. We do pizza reviews. We come home. Now it's like the office is closed. The guys are walking off basketball courts. Like Kobe had just passed away. Everything's like, what is happening in the world right now? I remember watching the news a lot more. And now like my buddies will text me and be like, remember when you said that like you wanted like a little mix up in like the daily routine? We're still fucking home. People are, I mean, the world has ended essentially. I mean, it's fucking outrageous.
To agree with you to an extent, there's something tantalizing about impending chaos, like the snowstorm thing. I totally agree with that. But yeah, none of us, nobody in the world thought it would be like this, and we obviously didn't want any of that. But to that degree, I understand what you're saying. But it just went to a level that nobody.
I just remember being such like a like an innocent, naive brain, being like, oh, like how bad could it be, right? Like there's like what, like this like virus coming from China and like people getting sick. Like what is happening right now? Like is this a Michael Bay movie? Like I remember like arguing with people like you guys are fucking stupid. There's no chance. And then we get an email from work like this office is closed. Like Barstool's closed. Like what? We don't close for fucking anything. Dave hasn't missed a day of work in his entire life.
Right.
It's 2012. Sorry.
I was gonna say I remember being in the office before that Friday before we shut down. And the conversation in the office was centered around, we'll probably be shut down for a week. That would be our guess.
Yes.
We had to guess how long it'd be. A week, 2 weeks at the most. And boy, is that not what happened.
Is 2020 a top 10 worst year of all time?
Yeah. Oh, you could probably go back and there's been some bad things.
The world wars and everything like that.
But I would say the world wars are tough.
World wars were tough. Some things that led to the world wars were tough.
Humanity really got just smoked during the World War.
I'd be interested if a historian went back and like documented the worst years of, I mean, it's got to be a top 10 worst year of all time.
A top 10 worst year of all time. I disagree with that.
I said yes so fast, but the only reason is because I experienced it. Like
if you want to talk about like deaths,
what about the year that the asteroid hit and killed all the dinosaurs? Like that's
it's a bad year. That's a bad year.
That's got to be the bad year on Earth or a bad year for humans?
I think
bad year of all time.
Bad year for there's been a couple bad years for humans. Bad years for humans.
Yeah.
I mean, the fucking swine flu was bad.
Yeah,
the Great Depression, a little thing called the Great Depression.
Right.
1929 bad.
No, I know, but you got 10 of them to throw them in the mix. I think it's a fringe 8 to 12 somewhere in there.
1940, 1941, 1942, 1943. He just says Titanic.
I may be suffering from recency bias, but it's got to be close to the top 10, if not strongly in the top 10.
Maybe on a global scale, like if something affected the globe, I would give you a top 10. I would give you a top 10 nomination for that for sure.
What do you think? I just meant top 10 all time of the U.S.
Because like there's like
worse for Frankie Borelli.
Yeah.
No, I guess like
that's how I viewed it when I first heard it.
I don't know, because like I'm thinking of like 9/11, like that's like a bad fucking day for humanity, but like it didn't affect people in France as much as it did in here. But that's still a top 10 bad day for humanity in my eyes. But like, but that's not what we're talking about. Like where it's actually like people in Italy are staying in their homes the same way we are right now. And that's weird. Like that's a different type of effect, like affecting.
I'll tell you what, comparing tragedies is tricky territory.
Very tricky. I'm on ice. I feel like Bambi on ice right now. I want to get me onto some fucking solid ground here, please.
It's a bad year. It was a very, very bad
year.
Really bad.
I'm gonna say I bet it's probably top 10 worst years for humanity.
It's got to be close,
dude. If you factor in all the economic repercussions and all of the it's bad. This bad year.
I do agree with Trent though. It's probably not our wavelength to talk about. So
let me hit the water bubbler real quick, and let's refresh this one real quick.
Get some water.
That's nice. That's our new segue. That's our new segue. April 8th, 2020, we had our guy Seth Wah on the show, and Seth Wah discussed the newly announced schedule where the Masters had come together, the USGA had come together, the PGA of America had come together, the PGA Tour had come together, and the R&A, and they had all figured out, except the R&A because they just canceled to collect the insurance money, but they had all come together and figured out essentially a schedule that would work. And I remember at the time, we're trying to get off the tragedy talk and into something a little bit more light. This was viewed, and we talked about it a lot, we praised it a lot, as one of the more impressive collaborations during such a shitty time. Like this was still early in the coronavirus. This is April, like early April. This is when it was supposed to be Masters Week. They came out and announced the new schedule, and ultimately that ended up working out great. Like the tour came back a few months after that. There were a few cases early on that people panicked about, but ultimately the PGA Tour handled it. And when you look at the case numbers and the bubble, phenomenally, they stuck to that schedule. Very few tweaks had to be made outside of Cannon, that shit tournament, the John Deere Classic. And pretty much they just went on and executed the schedule that they announced in early April that they were going to execute, and it fucking worked. So that was April 8th that we had Seth Wah on the show. Okay.
April 8th. If you would ask me when I thought that happened, it would have been
way later, right?
I think my internet's going in and out, but
what's that hamster slowing down again, Trent?
Here we go.
You gotta feed that fucking hamster in your basement.
I didn't want to give Frankie the opportunity, but not only am I in Iowa, which that has nothing to do with it, but Frankie has somehow implanted that in my brain that matters. We are in the middle of a legit snowstorm. The snow is starting to come down even harder. So
I love that I've implanted in your brain that being in Iowa has affected your internet connection. Because you now believe that is a source for your problems for internet connection.
Makes no sense, because we have internet routers like everywhere else. We have internet providers like everyone else. It's all the same. But for whatever reason, Frankie berating me on the last show, calling me corn boy and saying that my internet sucked has had an effect on me.
Dude, has anyone here seen the clip of when we streamed yesterday on YouTube of Trent's mommy coming down and telling them that he's played too much video games and that he has to come upstairs, and he left the stream? I mean, it was one of the most wholesome and incredible moments that I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, we'd been playing video games for 3 to 4 hours at that point, and my sister stopped by to say hello and just conversate a little bit. And my mom came down and knocked on my basement door that I'm staying in while I'm here. And she was very polite, but the message was, stop playing this video game with your friend Frankie and get your ass upstairs so you can be with family. And that's just what it is. That was quite a moment.
It's very wholesome.
Yeah, it was great. It was fucking great.
I kind of side with your mom on this one too. I mean, like, you're at home, spend a little family time.
It was just the optics of like it was. I got a glimpse into 11-year-old Trent playing video games in the basement, and Mama Ryan coming down and be like, Tread, you've been playing for 4 hours now. Say goodbye to your friends and let's come upstairs. And he's like, okay, I gotta go, guys. I'll be on later.
Yep. Yeah, I can come up.
He literally said, like, I'll be on later, which it just brought me back to, like, that's how I grew up with my friends, being like, my mom's calling me downstairs. I'll be on in an hour.
Yep.
And to be clear, I've been spending a lot of time with my family.
A
great trip home.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I'm glad you cleared that up, Trent. That's good.
We're just trying to paint me like an anti-family man.
No, I was just asking a question. Seems like
no,
you
didn't. No, you actually
factor.
didn't ask a question. You said I side with your mom that you should be spending more time with your family.
Fair. I was bringing up a topic.
I would also like to side with my mother, just in general. She's a great lady.
Smart move.
May 20th, we have the Jonas Brothers on this podcast.
What a moment that was! What a name drop to be able to
Frankie
say we had
dressed
the
up for that one.
Yeah, I wore my cool guy shirt. I also, the year of 2020 was ups and downs for me. Obviously, I mean, we have a lot of highs with in our professional careers. I feel like we had a good year for foreplay with videos and a lot of more connections and all this stuff, and an even bigger year in 2021. But personally, I went through some crazy shit with my facial hair and just staying inside, my Whoop band, my stats, everything about like my personal being was a kind of a shit year. But you know, looking back, being able to talk to the Jonas Brothers was one hell of a fucking moment. And to make my point, seeing the video of that makes me cringe a little bit, where I looked ridiculous. And I know that people probably told me that to my face, but I wish it's one of those moments where it's like, why didn't you guys like punch me or something? Like,
well,
I clearly like had a problem, or like, I don't know, I was going through like a thing. Like, you guys aren't like, you look, everyone was telling me I look good.
This podcast, I think,
when did we tell you look
specifically good? During the Jonas Brothers interview, because it was an icebreaker. It gives us like something to make fun of, and you're the butt of the joke that everybody laughs at, and then we move on with the thing. Everybody's comfortable.
There was conversations about like Lurch said, I finally looked like a human. I had facial structure. I didn't look like an avatar. So like I kept it. I went to the White House with that. I've looked back at photos of me in like the Oval Office, and I just have this outrageous facial hair going on. I'm also so sunburnt because I thought I was getting tan this summer. It was a very, very much of a roller coaster, 2020 personally with my looks. But yeah, the Jonas Brothers was quite a moment, because I was a huge Jonas Brothers guy. I love the Joe Bros. Growing up, the Joe Bros were everything.
Yeah, I mean, look, we had the Jonas Brothers. Like, they're mega, mega, mega stars. So the fact that we had them, all three of them on this show, is ridiculous. And that was very cool. On May 27th, a week later, we beat Kevin Kisner and had a podcast about how we beat Kevin Kisner. I think 26th is when we beat him, and the 27th is when we had that show. Then I look, June 8th is the first time that I see in our podcast descriptions or titles a mention of Knives Creek, and look how far that's gone.
Dude, like, this is what I'm talking about. Everyone's like, go fucking cover the sporting event that like type in who's leading the tournament. It's like, I think we had a pretty fucking good, unique year. A lot of shit came out that was different. And that's like what we do. I watch CBS for golf coverage just like you do. That's like not what we're here for. I sit there and I watch the leaderboard come up, and it fucking comes up. I see who's winning the tournament, and then I turn it off. Like, this is like cool shit that happened this year, and I'm very proud of what's gone on. Like, we had Behind the Greens, 4-Man Scramble, Knives Creek. I mean, our Barstool Golf Society has 115,000 players within the society. The game costs $60 a game. It's not some fucking free to enter tournament. Like, you walk in, you just fucking press join now. Like, this is a fucking hard thing to join. You got to go buy a console. You got to buy the video game. You got to find us within a mode inside the society, which they didn't even really help us like promote that much. Like, I mean, we did it all on ourselves, and 115,000 people. Like, that goes a long way. We're building a world now around it. We're partnering with 2K for the next iteration of the game. It's going to be fucking awesome. So like, I think what we did in 2020 with staying in our houses and being able to travel and stay safe, like no one got coronavirus, knock on fucking wood. Like, we were able to stay safe. We were able to, I mean, you're going through this list. It was like Jonas Brothers, Kevin Kisner, 4-Man Scramble. And then we're going to play the other guys in the 4-Man Scramble, the country music superstars. And with all the guests, I think that 2020 went fucking phenomenal for what we had to do, for what we had to deal with.
For the record, no one here is saying that we had a bad. I think like this is like, I mean, we did as well as we possibly could. We had an awesome year. Like we did all kinds of cool stuff, all things considered. And like you said, like behind the greens, I obviously have that on my list, but behind the greens, that thing took the internet by storm, and it's so different than anything that we've done before. And that popped up when we were just at Wingfoot. We were filming a completely different video. We kind of went back with Steve Rabideau, and boom, next thing you know, a little vision, a little execution, a few really early mornings, and a bunch of awesome editing. And we whipped up a video that, again, took over US Open week and was the dominant story really until, in terms of like a lot of the media and media coverage, until Bryson ended up going on and winning. But June 17th, Pat Perez joined the show. That was his first time in 2020 where he joined the show. And he was having wine and hanging out with Jason Kokrak. And we just ripped through for like an hour with Pat Perez. And that interview to me really stuck out. I mean, it was early. I think they had just gotten to like Hilton Head. So it was early in their year. It's going to be a real battle with me and this guy on the speaker right now.
That was with, because they were all just got to Hilton Head, and we were all like, there was reports of guys like not being able to go out to dinner, and like we were trying to figure out like what is the vibe like on the PGA Tour, and we just got to talk to Pat Perez, who was sitting there drinking wine, being like, "Yeah, I'm with this guy fucking Kokrak," and he like we realized that like he was going to be dropping F-bombs and be like one of the guys, and he's become like one of our boys now, and maybe like the best guest on Foreplay that comes on. I mean, the way he speaks about the game, the way he's just an open book. That initial talk with him was fucking phenomenal. I was just like, that one really sits with me as one of the best interviews we've ever done.
Yeah, I remember Perez saying, first of all, that Jason was going to win shortly after that.
He did.
And then he did. And then also, I remember he kept saying to him, he was like, get your 20-year vets and more wine. And then, like, he was just like pulling weight in the room. But Perez is a beast, and he's been just a joy to talk to.
Also, I just love when he refers to Tiger as the cat. That makes me so happy. Every time we're talking about, I don't know if this was the question, but it was something to the effect like, we don't want anybody to get coronavirus, but who can the PGA Tour, have them get it the least? And it was the cat. It's the cat. He kept saying the cat. I just love that he calls him that. Yeah, Pat Perez is now our guy. He's got probably the best four-man scramble that we've done so far coming out here in the future. He's just an awesome guy who's got an awesome house and an awesome Jordan collection.
What a unique way he has, the way he speaks, his vocabulary, his his tone and the way he speaks about things, like just saying the cat like that. And he's so just like serious, but also says very funny things. I don't know how to wrap my head around his like personality, Pat Perez, because like he's very dialed in.
I don't think anybody does, to be honest.
Like I can't pin it down. Like, is he serious? Is he like a jokester? Or is he even trying to be funny half the time? Because half the time he says things and we laugh, he has a straight face. So it's like, it's like, I went out there, I won $4 million, and you're like, and he's like staring right at you, and you're like, holy fuck, like, I don't know, like, yeah, you like don't know, he catches you on your fucking toes, like you're like, oh shit, like where are we going now? He's a fucking unique cat, to use his lingo.
Yeah, Perez is awesome. So we ended up having him on the show multiple times this year, and we also did the four-man scramble, so that led to a ton of cool stuff. July 6th is the first time that I really see a title with this figure, and it says Bryson is bursting was the title of our show. And I believe that this was really about the time when we started to realize, and the world was starting to realize, like, this Bryson DeChambeau thing where he's the Incredible Hulk, and he's trying to change the entire game of golf, and he's trying to take the distance debate and the distance issue to the extreme. And he has done all of this work over the last year, and he's become an absolute cartoon character that was built to hit golf balls a million miles and hit them pretty straight. Might actually just work out. And to think that was already all the way through to July 6th, so after the 4th of July, like over halfway through the year, that we started to kind of get to that point, but we weren't quite there yet. Is ridiculous, because since then he's won the US Open. There were talks that he was going to really lead to like the downfall of Augusta National and make it his bitch. And that was only July 6th.
Trying to look up when he put out that weird video.
The quarantine video?
Yeah, the quarantine video, because that's when he really, to me, started dominating the headlines. I cannot find the blog, but it had to be around then. Yeah, you can't mention the year of golf without mentioning Bryson. He's just, I still don't know how we feel about him as a general thing. I have no idea.
I don't know either. I mean, I think we love him for golf. I think we know that he's amazing for golf. I think we also all agree that he's just kind of a weirdo, and being a weirdo is fine, but we all also agree that he doesn't want to be known as a weirdo. Like, I think he wants to be known, he wants to be viewed, he wants to have his public image be that he's like a really cool athlete. In reality, he's just a total fucking dork who, that's fine. Like, dorks are cool. Being weird is cool. That's totally fine. But he doesn't embrace that. I think he resists against it. And so it leads to this weird kind of caught in the middle phase that he goes in when everyone's like, dude, you're not coming off genuine. You're not representing yourself well. Why don't you just be you? Just be you. And then we would all like you. But instead, he's kind of caught him in the middle.
Yeah, I think a lot of the general public doesn't see through like Dave was wondering if that video was real or if he's in on the joke. And I think a lot of people like wonder that. We see it for like what it is because we've been around him. We know that he is not in on the joke. He wants to be very much liked. Like, you ask him a question about his personality or like how the way people perceive him, his brand, he blinks a million times and he like really thinks about like what he wants his brand to be. And he gets really emotional about it. Like he was saying even on our show that one time, he's like, I like when people cheer for me. I hate when people boo me. Like I want to be able to change the game. Like single length irons, the whole thing. I can change the game forever. That's what I'm here to do. I think everyone has a purpose, like the whole fucking bullshit. He is not in on the joke. And I wish, and I've always said this, I wish he would be. I wish he shows up to fucking tournaments wearing like a muscle shirt and he would, like, his driver head covers were protein shake bottles and stuff. Like, that would be a very funny on brand personality and like and his entire brand he could build around. But he just is so fucking unlikable with the stuff that he does. He really is. It's like, and that's just to me, that's my personal opinion about him. Like, I find his stuff to be extremely unlikable, and almost more so he has all this potential to be the most likable dude on tour. It makes me that much more mad that he doesn't do it correctly.
Speaking of that, I'm looking at these old Bryson blogs from the year, and these two back-to-back are a pretty good picture of that. It says Bryson had a disastrous 15th hole at the Memorial, argued about a fence, and ended up making a 10. And then a couple weeks later, Bryson DeChambeau tried to convince a rules official that he should get a drop because fire ants were putting him in a dangerous situation. Like, those are situations that he puts himself in with rules officials that just make people hate him.
I will say that I think fire ants are no fucking joke.
Well, I got bit by an ant at Pinehurst that you guys didn't believe me, so I am kind of with Bryson on that one. But that was just a thing in a long line.
I just remember that ant thing. He like pointed at the hole and he's like, "You're telling me that's not a situation in which I can move my ball." And the guy looked at it and he goes, "No, I don't see it." And Bryce's like, "Okay." Just like, it just wasn't even close. The guy's like, "I don't see anything you're talking about." He's like, "I swear the ants were here 2 seconds ago." But
remember Brooks chirped him? Brooks like chirped him like later in that week and was like, "Oh, what about you got any ants out here or something like that?"
Yeah.
August 3rd was the PGA Championship. That's when I was there and I was doing the live podcast while following Tiger in the practice round and trying to get audio of Tiger and Joey talking so that we could claim they were on our podcast.
You got that picture taken of you.
Yeah, there's that one
by
picture
Bob Herrick.
Like awkwardly standing there with your phone sideways to make it look like you weren't filming, but then also the fact that like you're definitely filming. That's a high moment for foreplay right there, is us being like one of the only media people on the premises at the PGA Championship, and we were using our time to eavesdrop on Tiger Woods and his caddy to say that we got them on our podcast unofficially. That's foreplay for you.
I love it.
Obviously, Colin Morikawa went on to win that one. He sort of catapulted onto the scene. I mean, he had won a few times. He had, what was it, the Workday? Because I know they're both at Muirfield. Was it Workday where he beat JT in that playoff? I think it was.
Yes.
But it was at Muirfield. And look, Morikawa's got a few wins, so it wasn't like he popped out of nowhere. But like going from a young stud on tour who can win to a major champion and winning the first major championship back after an unprecedented break during a global pandemic was fucking awesome. The way that he did it, hitting that that tee shot on 16 where he drove the green. Very, very funny story from this past weekend where we were, so obviously the kids, hunting, fishing. Actually, there was no fishing. It was just hunting and shooting guns with kids, Dewey, his swing coach, JT, his short game coach, Tim. And that hole came up actually from the PGA. And Dewey was telling a great story where, so they had like been talking strategy about how to handle that hole. And JT, who is, we all know Tillery, he's kids' swing coach. He had been sort of like looking at some of the play, and I guess Kiz was playing later in the day. So he had come up with the idea that like anybody who misses right there is like totally screwed. So you got to lay up. And so I guess Kiz had the honor after playing like the 15th hole. So he steps up on like 16 and just hits like a 5-iron down the middle of the fairway and then walks over to the bathroom. I guess Dewey was looking at it, and Dewey said that he's like, I'm looking at the sheet and it says 292 hole. And there's a big bowl, essentially the pin's just like in a bowl. And he's like, Kiz's driver literally goes 292. It's like the perfect shot for Kiz's driver. It's in a fucking bowl. And if you miss a little left, it's just an easy up and down. And Kiz always hooks the ball, so he'll miss left. And he said, so Kiz like goes to the bathroom, and Dewey looks over at JT, who's outside the ropes, and is looking at him like, you are such a pussy. Like, what do you mean we're going to lay up? He's like chirping him. And they said they're walking down the fairway, and Kiz is like looking at the green the closer they get, and he's like, dude, it looks like a pretty damn good driver off the tee. And then I guess the line that Kiz said was like, there was one fucking divot on that tee box, and it was mine. He's like, nobody's hit an iron the whole fucking week. There's one divot in the tee box, Dewey, and it's mine. And he's like chirping him the entire time. I guess he ended up hitting a wedge to like 8 feet and making like a curler for birdie. And I guess he walked off and was like, you motherfuckers are lucky I made birdie right there, because that would have been ridiculous. But that's the whole, Morikawa hit it to 7 feet, makes eagle, ends up winning the PGA Championship. And then really after that, I mean, once we got into September, there was the lead up to the US Open with Wingfoot, with Behind the Greens, and kind of the launching of Behind the Greens, and sort of this idea and this chatter that like Wingfoot, the winner was going to be 10 over par. And then they went out and lit it up the first day, and then only one person ended up under par at 6 under, and it was Bryson DeChambeau. So we had sort of the emergence and like the vindication of Bryson's entire method when he won at Wingfoot and won the US Open.
Yeah, US Open was an awesome experience for all of us. I think just like seeing, like, we got to go play the course before, we got to see it, especially during a pandemic year where we weren't allowed on the premises. The fact that we were able to get that access was fucking awesome. The Wingfoot guys I'm forever in debt to those guys. They are the best cast of characters I think you can find at a golf course that are maintaining a course. I'm finding out that there are many places just like that, and it's really been an eye-opening experience, and it's crazy. The amount of respect I have for that community, how far I've come personally for golf course maintenance and people that go to turf school. It really started with me playing with a super at my place, Rockville Links, and I have to give them a shout out for what they did during my guy Luke and Kagan over at Rockville Links. Like, on Monday mornings, he would have a golf cart ready for my dad, who was obviously going through a lot with the restaurant. And then Mondays he had to close down. And my dad's never been country club living. And the fact that like he was able to show up to a golf course that was kind of down the road, and Luke would have it ready for him on maintenance day while they were working around the course. And my dad was able to go play golf. Like, even when I wasn't there, he had waters in there, beers for him. Like, just like seeing that side of golf. And I used to shit on those guys, being like, you went to turf school, you don't know what the fuck, get out of the way, I'm hitting my fucking drive. And now I'm so team golf course. It's not even funny. Like, I root for the golf course. I root for the USGA. I love all of that. Like, I'm anti-player now. I love, like, I'm when I'm walking around the course, I that little stuff like, oh, that guy did that. I'm finding little like knickknacks that I see that they put on the course, the way that they rate the greens. I'm learning so much more. I mean, I'll rate the bunkers. I'm learning so much more about what goes into it, and I'm forever grateful for this year being that introduction to this whole new world. I mean, I never would have been able to do that, and I feel like I would have been an asshole the rest of my life when it comes to this whole entire industry. So yeah, shout out to those guys. I'm very excited to do more behind the greens.
We had on August 26th one of the best stories of the year, Sophia Popov. So we had her on the podcast, That was a few days after she won with no status, where she had been caddying, a few weeks before for someone else, one of her friends out on tour, went and won the Women's British Open and like completely changed her life. That was one of the best stories the entire year. We had her again on the show on August 26th. So if you want to go back and re-listen to that interview, she's cool as hell. She's got such a good perspective. And she, again, literally came out of the clouds, came out of nowhere, not in her own mind, but in everybody else's mind, her world ranking, her status, all of that came out of nowhere and just won a major championship in the women's game. So that was the August 26th show. September 23rd, we had Jack Nicklaus on the podcast. So again, like a monumental thing that honestly, like not that but even just going through, I was trying to think like going through top 5, top 10, like things, like I could have just forgotten that even happened. Not that it's just like so many things occurred throughout the year. And like Lurch was saying, like my memory's so bad, I just forget so many things that when I scrolled across that name, I was like, holy shit, that's right. Like we sat down with Jack Nicklaus and talked about like the debate between, him or Tiger being the greatest player of all time, and him like watching Tiger go out and try to break his records. And if he's really rooting for Tiger Woods after like all of the discussions that we've had about it, and the fact that actually occurred was, and that you almost like forget about it, speaks a lot to like how much that we've done. Then looking into early November, like another thing we haven't mentioned is, I mean, we did 17 really like live golf events throughout this entire year.
Crazy.
We did 16 Barstool Classic qualifier stops, and then we did a 3-day Pinehurst Championship. We had a whole day on the Cradle, a whole day of 2 different courses at Pinehurst, and then a third day of over 100 golfers on Pinehurst number 2 playing for a championship with like Jeff McNeil was down there. So the fact that we were able to do all of that while doing everything else that we're talking about is fucking crazy town. And like the amount of travel that we've done, and like we've tried to be as safe as we possibly can. Like Frankie said, like fingers crossed that none of us have gotten coronavirus in the year 2020 so far. We got a few days to go, and hopefully that doesn't happen where anybody tests positive. But like we just also like we have work to do, and like we've had a lot of work to do. We've gone to all these places. Like you see a lot of it in the videos that we put out, but also like Frankie and the crew, when all of us don't go, are going to places and filming behind the greens. And then like me and the Barstool Classic crew are going to 15 different cities across the city or across the country and like putting on golf tournaments. And we're just like trying our best to get shit done. And when you look at the year in review, it's fucking amazing at how much shit we were actually able to get done, especially when like half of the year has been pretty much a quarantine situation.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
It's got to be one of the only. Erica always says it's like the only running tour that went on in all of sports, like a non-professional during the pandemic. Like it's crazy the fact that like no other media company, no other concert, like no concert tours were going on. Like a couple of people tried to do drive-throughs, but this was like the only thing that was able to make it all the stops, have people come in a safe fashion. Golf is a safe way to get through the pandemic. You're outside, like you're saying, and you're healthy and you're enjoying the fucking social distancing, the whole thing. But the fact that we were able to pull it off, that's the whole team over there. I mean, MB, that whole team that takes over with you, Riggs, it's crazy how much work goes into all that stuff and setting up the golf courses and all the pros at each stop. Like I don't know all the guys out there, but like the guy Matty at Cherry Valley, like how much work goes into making sure everything was safe and all the precautions were taken and all that. I mean, hats off to that whole entire system, the whole crew.
Yeah, like Lisa Litvak, who runs our live events, who works most closely with me to kind of run the Barstool Classic, is fucking awesome. We had Trisha, we had Kelsey, we had Ian, we got Nick, we got Brendan, Jake were there, a ton of them. And B, obviously, as you mentioned. So like we do, like our team, to be able to get through that, we had to cancel some stops in like certain cities that were having spikes. We had to then put a few more on sale that sold out in like 3 minutes. We obviously had to water down some of the experience in terms of the social aspects. And we had a lot of people that dropped out of events, said, hey, I can't because of COVID. I don't feel comfortable, or, I know somebody I was exposed. We had a lot of people that reached out that like heroically said that, I was actually in contact a week ago with someone who tested positive a few days later. And even though I don't have any symptoms, like I'm going to do the right thing and that comes. So like, all of that going on, the amount of people that came to the Barstool Classic and played and said like, hey guys, this is the first time I've been out of the house in like 4 months, and this means the world to me. Like, this is just so fun. I really needed this. And the fact that like people were willing to do it, the courses that were willing to all be flexible, like the rules were different at every single stop. So so that was nuts that we were able to put that entire thing on. Then looking at November, I mean, we had a Masters November. Speaking like Barstool Classic and coronavirus, like ended up being, and I know I've said this a million times, like the week that we booked the entire Barstool Classic to conclude was just ended up being Masters weekend. Like we booked it to finish in November, and it was just Masters weekend. And there was all the hype going into the Masters about Bryson, about what was going to happen, what was the course going to look like, was it even going to be presentable? And then Dustin Johnson did his thing. Before we go more into Dustin Johnson doing his thing, I got to remind you that most guys have tried different ways to last longer. But thinking about, course conditions, or who knows, maybe Frankie in Atlantis, I think that's kind of where the whole ghost thing came about last year. Those things might not work if you're trying to actually last longer. I mean, that actually might work, but it also might not work. So I suggest, and we suggest, using Roman. Roman's an online men's health company. They're changing the game with Roman swipes. It's the secret to longer lasting sex. Roman swipes are a clinically proven way to last longer. They are effective. They're easy to use. They're fast acting. They do not require a prescription. Please go to getroman.com/Fore. Get yourself your first month of swipes for just $5 when you choose a monthly plan. That's getroman.com/Fore. Getroman.com/Fore. Choose your first month of swipes, and you're just going to be $5. Easy $5 charge. You're welcome. Done. Masters tournament, Dustin Johnson went out there and just solidified his awesome year and dominated the field at the Masters. Him and his brother were like emotional at the end of it. And that was kind of the last real golf, I feel like, that we saw. And the fact that happened in November, the fact that like DJ's now won a US Open at Oakmont and obviously a Masters at Augusta National has sort of elevated him up there. And a lot of people think too, like, when is this guy, Dustin Johnson, going to, he's got 23 wins or whatever it is, like finally start closing a lot more of these majors? Well, he's a defending Masters champion. He did it in pretty convincing fashion. So it was a good way to finish out the major championship year.
Yeah, I saw that he made $24 million this year, which is, it's a pretty good chunk of change. Frankie, what do you got going on over there? What are you drinking?
Oh, I made an emergency water, and I don't have the capabilities of shaking it, and I took a sip, and it was a lot of the gook that went down, and I wasn't prepared for that type of consistency, and I almost regurgitated it out onto my desk and my laptop system over here. So that was a tough moment. But yeah, Dustin Johnson, hell of a fucking run for him this year. That was a dominating performance, like you said. The golf course was weird. Augusta was strange. It was like seeing behind the curtain of Disney. We say it all the time. We didn't like to see the brown grass around 12 and the mud balls and no azaleas and stuff. It was a little strange. But Dustin Johnson, he is his stats are outrageous. The amount of weeks at number one and how fucking good he really is. Like when you break it down to how many times he's won, and now he's starting to win majors and he's starting to just rack it up. $24 million in 1 year is an astounding number. Like no one's had.
Is that really? That can't be how much he won last year.
I don't know. Is that
FedEx?
FedEx?
A lot.
And then he
won the
FedEx Cup. You're right.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about the FedEx Cup. What a year.
Yeah, 24 million without the FedEx is impossible.
It's fake. You got to win 12 times.
Right.
That's an incredible year. Oh my God.
Yeah, he's a dominating golf figure. Like, and you don't really think of him that way until I feel like this year.
I know. I feel like he gets brushed over way more than he should. Like this year at the TPC Boston, he shot like 30. Didn't he shoot like 33 unders?
30. I think he hit 30.
So, I mean, like he does these outrageous things that I feel like not enough people talk about. I guess Riggs just zapped out on his flight. So I guess he's gone.
Let's talk about how much we hated Riggs over the year 2020. What a fucking ass. I'm just kidding.
No, I think it's got to have something to do with the personality, right, Lurch? Like, just that he doesn't have like the electricity that some other, like like John Rahm.
Talking about Riggs here, or oh no, I'm just kidding. That was another joke. Sorry.
You were just so ready to talk shit about.
No, I mean he popped that.
There's one more coming too.
Yeah,
He's not done yet.
Dude, you guys keep talking about that. What you're doing here? I'm gonna look up this John Rahm stat. Go ahead, keep going.
No, I think that's got to be part of it. And that's why after he won the Masters and Ahmed Abel did that great post-round interview with him where he's crying and he can't say 2 words without getting choked up. Like that moment resonated with so many people because it was like, there it is. Finally, Dustin Johnson showing a little bit of emotion that he never shows. And I think if he can do whatever he wants. He's Dustin Johnson. He made $24 million this year. But I think, if to really resonate with a lot of people, you have to have a little bit of fire and a little bit of emotion. And that might be part of the reason why people sort of brush over him at times. For the most part, people do give him his due.
I agree with that. Oh, yeah. I mean, it certainly humanized him when he cried and was just it took him back, which we've never seen. He wins. He's won before. He's won majors before. But we've never seen that piece of him that was like, oh, this might actually mean something to him. Before it was almost like, I want to say machine-esque, but it's not in that way at all. But in terms of, and this is going to come off like poo-pooing him, but that mentality of just being a machine and not caring so much and just winning, going about doing your business and then just leaving. But the Masters was the first time that ever it kind of brought him back a step.
And we've talked about it before, but he always gets backhanded compliments about his demeanor, short-term memory, or he forgets the bad stuff easily, or just things like that where they're trying to say that he doesn't think about things too much or that he's not smart, which he's clearly very smart and very good at the game of golf. And I think a lot of that is starting to go away after the show of emotion at the Masters. But there's just parts of him that are sometimes robot-like and people can't connect with that, so they don't talk about him as much.
Let's quickly touch on John Rahm. I've often talked shit about his game, not really, but I didn't put a lot of confidence into him. I said there's no chance he makes a top 10 at Augusta, and he was flirting with that top 10. I think he snuck in there with a 9 or a 7, a T7 or T9, which I was pissed that I wasn't able to gloat about that correct call going to Augusta. But someone sent this message to me. It was like a fucking DM from Golf TV or whatever. And John Rahm in his first 100 events, in official golf world ranking counting events, he has 10 wins, second to Tiger Woods, 24 top 3s, second to Tiger Woods, 37 top 5s, second to Tiger Woods, 50 top 10s in the first 100 events, 50 top 10s, second to Tiger Woods, and only 12 missed cuts, second to Tiger Woods. That is fucking out.
That's John Rahm.
That's John Rahm.
Now, is that
we're talking 50 top 10s?
Right, but hold on. But is that comparison at the same age that Tiger was at that time?
So it's through their first 100 events.
Well, so the ages are going to be different.
Gotcha.
But but fair. Really it's the same sample size. Okay, Still wildly impressive.
Wildly
I missed
impressive.
That first piece. Yeah.
The only thing that you could say that's wildly different is that through his first 100 events, Tiger Woods had 5 majors and John Rahm has 0. Now that's a huge difference, but no one's talking. I won't want to say no one because he's a top favorite in most tournaments coming in, but not enough people are talking that through his first 100 events, John Rahm has 50 top 10s. I mean, that's a number to me in golf that is so unachievable for a guy like John Rahm. Like that's a Tiger Woods number. Oh, in half the events he plays in, he's top 10.
I mean, that's
what are you talking about?
That's
what
how
are you talking about?
That's how you make a lot of money too.
That has to be better than Dustin Johnson, right?
You just said it's second.
Right.
So in the first 100 starts, it's just better than everybody.
Right. Let me hit that water bubbler real quick. And just clear that one
hit it one more time.
No, we just got it. Let me just hit that water bubbler. All right.
Remember when he had a cup of coffee as number one golfer in the world after he won at the Memorial, and then he lost it 2 weeks later? But John Rahm is incredibly good at golf, but I had not thought about, finishing in the top 10, the first 50 of 100 starts. That's pretty fucking good.
So Riggs' computer died, so he's not coming back.
Right. And so now I think it's just a joke on us because now we have to remember the latter half of the year of what transpired.
We were pretty much done. We were through the Masters through November. And I think the last big thing that happened in golf was Tiger and Charlie taking over the internet at the PNC Championship.
Is there anything else that's happened? There has to be
looking through like
one
my
more
photos.
thing.
Like, no, we played the 4-man scrambles in Arizona.
Yep.
Those were big moments for us. We knocked out 3 4-man scrambles. We went 2-1. One of them was in exhibitions, but we beat Joel Damon, we beat Pat Perez, and then we lost to Paige Baranek and crew. I'm trying to think of what else happened. I'm looking through my photos right now. I had a pretzel.
You had a pretzel?
One of those
Soft
big pretzels. Yeah, one of those soft big pretzels.
Yeah.
It was a homemade one too. We were able to put as much seasoning as we wanted on it, so we made it kind of an everything. Oh
You
my
dip
God.
in anything?
I listened to the Barstool Classic Championship was around that time. We talked about that a little bit. I listened to the DMAs for the first time from Australia.
Our travel series videos have come out. The
Travel
Australia
series
video.
videos came out. Yep. A lot of merch came out. We had a huge merch Black Friday deal. I mean, some of the best merch you could possibly see. Trent's showing us the snow in Iowa right now.
Dude, it's snow. I wish you guys could see how much it was snowing.
Oh, we could see. Holy shit.
Yeah, no, that's a good amount.
It's seriously snowing like
That's
crazy.
a big amount of snow. Yeah, we had really good partnership as well as always with Peter Millar, Owens Mixers. All of our partners have been fantastic this year. We can't thank them enough. We have a lot of exciting things coming 2021. I guess just to finish it off, Charlie Woods, yeah, he was maybe the biggest story of 2020. I mean, in golf world, this kid's coming up. He's the fucking heir to the throne. Tiger puts his son in the middle of the spotlight. We know that it's going to be a crazy media circus, and Charlie just delivers. He's twirling clubs. He looks just like Tiger Woods. He wears the red and black. The one thing I want to apologize for is that we didn't really talk about, and I've thought about this when we hung up the phone and we did that podcast. I don't think we mentioned Justin Thomas's name once when we talked about the PNC Championship. Like maybe we glossed over the fact that they won, but like Justin Thomas and his dad played absolutely fucking lights out. And I've often given his dad like some shit being like, oh, he's like, he owned a country club or he was managed as a country club and his son grew up a country club player. That guy can fucking hit the golf ball. JT's dad. I mean, he can really hit the golf ball under pressure like that. That was a fucking, with all that circus going on to the right of mini Tiger and Tiger playing golf, like in your same group, to be able to just, he was firing. JT played maybe the best golf he's ever played in his life that weekend.
I'd argue that the Tiger Woods and Charlie show makes the pressure go down.
You think so?
Yeah, because there's no focus on you guys.
You don't want to lose to a 11-year-old though.
No, that's another argument. But I think, there was all Tiger Woods and Charlie Woods all weekend. Like there was no other storyline. Like I feel like John Daly and Little John Daly are usually the focus of that tournament. Obviously, that's not the case when Tiger Woods and his son show up. But I think having that going on while you're playing in that same group, I think that takes the pressure off. The Thomases played phenomenally. Obviously, they won the whole thing. But they played really well. But you're going to get dwarfed by Tiger and Charlie.
Which is fair, but I just remember watching that whole week and I was so intensely viewing Tiger and Charlie that every time they would zoom in on the putt for Charlie, like JT was just inside them and he was just playing so lights out that weekend that I just don't know if he got his shine. And he put up on his Instagram, like, this was one of my favorite wins ever because, I got to experience it with my dad. And like, we talked about a little bit, he was nervous about his dad playing because you don't know, your dad just gets the shanks. Like, he's not a pro golfer. He's not on the tour. What if he just gets a shanks and just plays embarrassingly bad on national television? So yeah, that was pretty cool to see. And I just wanted to give them the shout out because I don't know if they got what they deserved on our pod last time.
Now, did that come as like a sole fanboy as you've, put it in, you bet on JT this whole year? Where'd that come from?
That's another thing. No, I didn't even think of that. I did bet. I had a big year with JT. I rode with JT. We do these picks for the Barstool Sports book. What are our picks? We go down the list. We make the graphics. I picked Justin Thomas every single week that he played. And he won once. So, it worked out for me one time. Every other time, not so much. But
Birch, you and I were right one week. We picked the same guy.
You guys picked Bryson, right?
We picked Bryson, and then we got crap for it because he was like the betting favorite.
Even though I picked JT was JT was the betting favorite, like maybe 25% of the time, and I kept picking him.
It's favorite or not, like, and then we got in the discussion about how often the favorites win. I can't remember what those numbers were, but I'm still that was a win for us.
Before we close up, it feels like we're dwindling off. I want to give a thank you to all who donated. I don't know if you guys saw, but I played
what'd
around
you do
golf
this
the other day.
weekend or this week? I don't know.
It was amazing. So I'm down in Florida. I was walking up, the first fairway, and I was thinking, all right, I could probably raise a couple bucks for the Barstool Fund. So I said that anybody who wants to do it'll be kind of like a 50-50 pot. You throw in 25. If I don't shoot better than 82.5, I'll give you 25 back, so you get 50 back. However, if I shoot under 82.5, I'll keep your 25, I'll double it as well, and we'll send that into the Barstool Fund. I said I would take a max of 250, so it would raise 500. Well, then I started getting donations from people that I was rejecting and sending back, but then people kept sending and be like, no, this is just for the Barstool Fund. So then it started naturally. And then I just was like, all right, so I'll just open it up to anybody that wants to give to me, and then I'll just repurpose it to the Barstool Fund. Maybe because people thought I only have $5, I only got $1, whatever the case is, it might feel small. So then we started just taking in, I just started opening my Venmo account. We collected, now it's over $8,000, even though I say my Venmo is closed. And we've got 126 people that have donated to me, which is aggregated over $8,000, which I've donated, I think, 7,700, something like that, into the Barstool Fund, and I'll send the extra 400 that's sitting in my Venmo account tonight, in case any others filter in.
That's that's, if my math is correct, that's over a $50 average donation, no?
Yeah, we got I don't know what your math is equating to, but I think we had 3 or 4 people donate $500.
Holy shit. Well, I just did, it was 8,000 divided by 145. I didn't know exactly what the numbers were, but yeah, it came out to $55 a person, which is fucking awesome to a random Venmo account. Not random, but they were just trusting you to go through your account to play golf and hit a certain number. That's a really good thing that you did. It's amazing that you raised that much money. That helps a restaurant or a store. That goes a long way. $8,000. I mean, that's a monthly, I don't know, electrical bill for a place that's struggling right now. That
right.
Single-handedly gets someone through something, which is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's $8,000 something. When you think about you're betting how much money you have in your bank account, so we donated $7,600.
Keep saying we. You have a team over there, or is this just you going through?
No, but so I put in, I sent you some money, and then I put in my own money into the Barstool Fund as well. So when I I mean
that I know, but you were saying it as if it was you were
Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, I would say we this 4-play team. We've done a ton over the year. I'm just a cog.
Did you guys
in the
hear that?
4-play. So no. So I would say you guys are quasi part of it as well, as people entrust us to kick the money over to Barstool Fund.
It's a phenomenal thing you did, Lurch.
That's a very cool thing
So I wanted to say thank you to all who donated.
I got people subscribing to the 4-play YouTube page right now, and it's making a ding noise, and it's taking up my ears, my ear space.
All right, boys. I think that's a pretty good.
That's a great thing, Lurch. I don't want to gloss over that. That's fucking phenomenal.
No. You're not at all. You're not at all.
Really, really good. And I mean, cool. I can't thank people enough for. I mean, and everyone's chipping in. It's crazy. Little things like that are raising that much money. And we're closing in on $10 million on the Barstool Fund. When you think about that being funded by just the common man and woman of the internet, right? This isn't, it's just a private business that came out and said, hey, we're going to raise this money from our fan base and let's see who we can reach. And we have $10 million in 9 days, basically. It's basically $1 million a day.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's nuts. Is it just started? The whole thing just started.
There's no reason it can't get to 50 million. You can, I mean, if you really think about how many businesses you can help, I think there's already been 35 businesses, and that's, I mean, they're not even halfway there with the money they have now, not even close to halfway there with the amount of businesses they can help. So it's fucking phenomenal, man. It really makes me emotional thinking about all those videos that Dave's posting and how many lives are changed. And we talked about it on the podcast yesterday, but it's not just the business. It's the person that helps that business and the other person that knows that business. It goes a long way, man. Each one's helping a community. So
it's amazing. Dude, some of the people donated to me, wrote me a note on Instagram saying that they run a small business too. And it's like they donated to me to donate to someone else. Like the goodness in someone's heart to do that is amazing. So then I said that tonight, just collecting all those people, I was like, if you run a small business and you actually donated to me, I'll just, not that it will make a huge difference, but just do a little swipe up story for their small business to order something off of it. So
there's a place, Stats, that Gaz goes to, Stats in Southie.
In Boston. I've been there.
And they like donated, like, I mean, they have to be hurting too. They're a fucking bar and restaurant. Like they donated whatever it was, $5,000 or it may have even been more to the fund, just because they know what other people are going through. And it's awesome. So yeah, it's been a crazy 2020. Cool. I think it's been a successful one on our part, and I'm really excited for what 2021 has in store. I think we're just really starting here with how big this thing can get, which is crazy. If you think about all the stuff that's happening behind the scenes that people are going to find out in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, it's going to be, everything's going to be bigger. Barstool Classic's going to be bigger. More videos are going to come out. Sponsorships are going to be bigger. Our partnerships are going to be bigger. So yeah, it's exciting stuff. And hopefully this fucking world can get back to normal.
Shout out to all the listeners.
Big thing. Yep, I was just about to say the same thing. Thank you so much for all the listeners. Wouldn't be anything without you guys. So it's been a heck of a ride.
I'd be at fucking Borelli's fucking probably not getting anything and just fucking sitting there tossing dough until the lights went off. The listeners and the fans are life-changing.
Yeah, I'd be a security guard in this very city that I'm in right now. I'd be at a corn plant making sure nothing crazy's going on.
I'd be selling software, which I'm just about to go back to. So I live exactly that life.
Yeah, Lurch isn't as happy. Lurch isn't as thankful for you guys. Let's put that on the record, because he has the same exact life, regardless of if you're a part of it or not. So let's just keep that one. Let's end the year on that good note.
Maybe I'll make a buck. See you guys,
right, fellas. Yep. See you.
Hit it hard.
We'd be crazy, and we come back and we'd be crazy not to mention that during this whole thing, we're recapping 2020, that we do not bring up the fact that Riggs stayed at Pinehurst, fled New York City during a pandemic, stayed at Pinehurst for 99 straight days, became the moral compass at Pinehurst, kicked someone off the golf course for playing later that night. Tom Pashley gave him a fucking compass that said moral compass. He became the leader of Pinehurst, North Carolina, and he cried on his way out. It's become one of the greatest viral moments in foreplay Barstool history because of how preposterous it is. So I did not want that to be forgotten in this crazy year. The fact that all this stuff's happening, especially during this small business time where we're all raising money, the fact that while all those people were all struggling and getting crushed, that happened at Pinehurst, like at the height of when all this shit was hitting, is a very, very funny moment. But we all know Riggs is like a very good, funny, great guy at heart, and that it had nothing to do with the actual pandemic. It's just he happened to be there and has lifelong friends, and Pashley is maybe one of the nicest guys in the fucking world. We love Tom Pasha. We love fucking Pinehurst, but had to bring it up. I don't know if you guys have anything to say about that.
Well, I was just going to say that it's funny that the guy who at the beginning of the episode was like, I put a few things together here. I went through our old podcast just to talk about 2020. He conveniently left out the part where he stayed at Pinehurst for 99 days and cried on his way out. So I'm with Frankie. Yep. We would be remiss not to mention that.
Yeah, it was well said, Frankie. There's really not much else to add other than exactly what you shared. So
just looking back on how preposterous the year was, the fact that happened this year, more preposterous than anything we brought up in this whole outline of what happened this year. That's the number one.
Now I'm thinking, how skewed was his outline? What else did Riggs do over the course of the year that we're simply forgetting?
He's moved to the Scottsdale. Best.
He fled COVID,
which is like good on him. Like you should, right? Like you shouldn't just like succumb to this virus and be like just get taken by it. Like if you can flee it, then go. Like you shouldn't want it. Like you shouldn't want to be stuck in your house. So he did it, and I mean, it also allowed him to do the Barstool Classic and travel all over the place. So that was fucking fantastic. And it was a good thing for foreplay, the fact that Riggs was able to go to Pinehurst. We had video content coming out every single day. The 12-year-old Pete challenge, was that this year?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So he lost to a 12-year-old. Yep. Also, which was left off.
Forgot to bring that one up.
Which was left off. I mean, he lost to a 12-year-old from the same tees, which I actually later found out they played from like 6,100 yards, or it was the white tees where they played 12-year-old Pete. So yeah, 12-year-old Pete for sure happened this year. I beat 12-year-old Pete, but he gave me 9 strokes. I just want
a totally different match.
Totally different match. Totally different.
Just not even close, but I love it. Anyways,
not even close.
Trent,
All
stay
right.
safe out there. Don't want you to get snowed in.
I'm indoors for the foreseeable future, so I'm all good. I'm just gonna watch the snow and not venture out there.
All
Maybe
right.
tomorrow you could do a snow angel for us.
Okay, maybe.
That would
not.
be great.
I used to do those. That's really when Vine was still a thing. Every time it snowed, I would do a snow angel.
When I speak to you guys next, it will be another year.
True.
So this is the last time you're hearing my voice for the entire year.
Right.
Even
Put
when
a
people
wrap
listen
on
to
2020.
even when people listen to this in other years, I was speaking in 2020 right now. So if you're listening to this in the year 2027, if you've somehow come across this podcast, I am currently in 2020. I don't even know if I'm going to be alive by 2027.
All right, I think Trent's mom's calling for him to wrap it up.
I have to pee so bad.
Bye-bye.
See
All
ya.
right.
Hit it hard, boys.